This is Philodendron Spiritus Sancti, one of the most rare and dramatic plants in my collection, and today it's getting a big upgrade. I will be giving it a moss bowl and also changing its container. So why am I giving it a moss bowl and what has been my experience with this plant is what this video is all about. Hey everyone, Pablo from Aroid Vibes Only, and this is the same Spiritus Sancti that I got from tissue culture last year, and then I have another version, a little version, that it's sort of like sprout from inside sitting in my cabinet. So this plant has been a very unique experience, mostly because it's a slow grower and it begins to get really, really long. So lately I have seen a lot of people posting some of the before and after pictures of their Philodendron Spiritus Sancti, mostly because honestly it's been like a couple of years since it entered the tissue culture market like aggressively. So you have been able to find it super, super cheap. The cost of my Spiritus Sancti was $20 because I bought a flask that had a tissue culture that became 2 plants for $40. So that is kind of like my own plant math. So this plant is something that is considered an epiphytic philodendron. What this means is that it grows attached to trees, it grows up into like the branches and stuff like that. It doesn't just grow like a bush in the dirt. So this plant requires to be holding onto something to climb, and it begins to absorb nutrients not only from like the roots that it has like below, but also from like the roots that are attaching, and it just needs a more unique kind of like experience with these nutrients, similar to like air plants, but that is what this plant is considered. So I want to add it to a moss bowl because I think that's going to give it the opportunity to attach. As you can see right here, it has this one auxiliary root that is just out here looking for a moss bowl. And I know already if it doesn't find it, it's going to get long. And then this one is also going to get long. And then at the end, this plant most likely will just begin to create a longer and longer internodal space because it's seeking like somewhere to attach. So the first part is going to be what I need to make that happen. So obviously our plant, duh. Then the moss bowl. This is the same moss bowl that I made in that video. Same technique, same measurements, same everything. I think it's a good size for this plant. For some other ones, I think they can be a little smaller. So I am going to be basically using one that I had already made and already had with some sphagnum in it. But if you want to watch it from scratch and how I made that, just watch the video and then you can come back to this one. But once you make your moss bowl, you can also purchase it, whatever you want to do. I personally like making my own. I am going to try something different this time. I am going to use a container and I'm going to put it on top of the moss bowl. And then I'm going to make a hole, go right through it, and then put some of this. So hopefully this will make watering this moss bowl a little different. Maybe it'll go slower. It's something that I just watched online and I want to see how it works and just experiment with it. This is also a great way for me to reuse a cup, a plastic cup that I was using at a restaurant that I thought could be really useful for something like this. So aeration is super important, and I find that most containers that come just do not have enough holes. Like this one, it has only the ones at the bottom, which work fine, but just it's not enough, especially for a plant that is in semi-hydro. So usually what I'll do is I'll just grab my soldering iron and just make some extra holes. You want to make sure you're doing this in a well-ventilated space, or like me, I am literally having a fan blow on me, because this is literally like burning plastic. It's not the best thing to be inhaling. And there you have it. In less than 2 minutes, we were able to make a bunch of little holes into our container. So now it's going to have a lot better aeration for the actual plant. So soldering irons are really helpful if you're doing this as a hobby. But just be really careful. They will start a house fire if you're not careful or you forget them. They get super hot and they will melt through anything, including metal, and then you might combust. So just be super careful if you're using that. Sometimes I like to put the moss bowl in a way that's hiding the water gauge. But in this case, I will not do that because I want to make sure that it has enough water in here so it doesn't have any issues during the transition for it. So I want to make sure I keep my eye on that with it. And then, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do it like that. So this will occupy a big percentage of like the container, but that's a-okay because what we want is to put it here. I honestly do not expect to need that much extra substrate because this amount space here is probably the same container that it has here. All of the new space that we're giving this plant is in a vertical sort of substrate with the moss bowl. So it's not about here, it's about here. All right, so the next step is just pushing the rope through the container. This is just something that I saw online. I don't really know if it's gonna work out. Part of me thinks that it might just make it like rot or something, but I use a synthetic fiber. I don't use like cotton or anything like that. So hopefully that helps out. So I'm gonna trim this, and then the idea is to have this plug through here, right? And then this goes on top of the moss pole. So whenever I water it, I just fill up this container with water, and then this kind of like keeps the entire thing moist. And because I'm blocking the only hole, it shouldn't just kind of like drench. So we'll see how it goes. It's just an experiment. You know, I like to try new things for y'all. So we'll put it here, and then I'm just going to kind of like wedge this down. I'm not sure how we're gonna do. Maybe we can just select and put it down. I think I'm going to, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go all the way down, and then maybe have it actually even go into the reservoir, and then just see what happens. You know, if it gets too damp, if it's staying too wet, like then we'll make a change for it. So I'm just gonna cut it here, and that should do the trick. And then we'll use. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie the other end to this stick as hard as we can. You know, and then push this. So we're gonna tie it like that. We're gonna grab our moss pole. If it's empty, you can probably just do this and hold it through. I'm just trying to get this through this. All right, so I'm gonna push right in the middle of the moss pole and then just pull through, and then hopefully that works. Oh no. Well, it mostly worked up until this point. All right, so after fishing for a while, we got it through. And then I'm gonna just push this down into it becoming like this cylinder. All right, so on this side, don't fall out. All right, so we have it up here at the cup, and then we have this thread down going all the way down. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so I'm gonna flip it back up because I need this to stabilize a little bit. All right, so step one, we want to untangle all of the roots here, and I see a bunch coming through the wick, so there's nothing we can do about those. Step two is we're going to loosen some of that substrate here. Alrighty. Thinking it can be like that. All right, I'm going to put it here. Let's see what we're going to do with this. All right, so I'm going to put this here and make a mess because we always make a mess, but that's all right because vacuums exist. So I'm going to dump the bottom part of this to make it semi-hydro. I don't want the moss from the moss ball to be touching the water because it will rot and it will turn gross. And trust me, you don't want that. Nobody wants that. All right, let's see if that works. All right, I have a feeling when I flip this, everything's just gonna go to shit. All right, so no, wait. We need a plan. We need a plan. What's the plan? All right, I need to put this through something. Wait, hold up. We're thinking. Okay, I think I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the opposite of this. We're gonna put it like here. Then instead of doing that one, I'm gonna put it like this, right, where we think it should go. And then I'm just gonna pull this through the opening. So I think that's gonna be the move. So let's do that. All right, so what we're gonna do is I cut off one of the legs, just the cap, and then we're gonna pass it through there and then pull, and then we'll see if that works out. So we're gonna pull this. Oh yeah, all right. Stuff is happening. So we're gonna position it where we want it to be, which is down here. All right, and then I'm just gonna flip it. So to recap, we had the clear cup and we did a hole in it. Now we passed a thread through, and then I'm just gonna flip it. And then we're just gonna push this down a little bit because it's creating a gap there. So right here, there is nothing. So we'll just push some of this down a little bit with my chopstick, just a little bit. All right, so let's do this together with you in this point of view. All right, so we're gonna pull it as we see down here. Oh, this is that. Yeah, this is gonna go like this. I'm very carefully holding on to the main stem of this and then pull in. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, flip it carefully down. Whoop. Carefully. All right. See this side root? I'm gonna try to pull it very gently and see if we can like separate. All right, now all we have to do is basically push that root in. I'm going to use some just tape, planty tape right here, flip it, and then I just pull, not too hard, but you also want to make sure that you're keeping that root inside of the moss pole, at least for the time being. It will eventually just harden, it will spread, and you'll see all the roots moving everywhere. The only thing I'm thinking that I might do with this one in a little bit might be adding a little bit more moss pole. How I'm going to do that, I am not 100% sure yet. I might just kind of like lift the cup a little bit and then push it around on the sides. I'm not sure, but I'll figure that one out. So there you have it. This is my Spiritus Sancti in its new container with its moss pole and trying something new this time around. So comment down below, what have you done with your Spiritus Sancti? Do you have it on a moss pole? Do you plan on buying one now that they're super affordable? And let me know if you have any tips about what you would like me to do with this plant in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and YouTube thinks that this video is the best one for you next.